Calificas para ser legal, ¿quieres saber? Solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.
After December 20th, green card holders who want to apply for citizenship are going to be getting a harder test. What does that mean? We don't know. We haven't seen it. But it's getting harder. How much harder? Again, haven't seen the questions. Hard to say. But there's a requirement today for most people that you have to read, write, and speak basic English. You also have to have basic understanding of U.S. history and government. They call it civics. USCIS has advised that they're going to make it harder, but we haven't seen the questions. Again, we know they want to make it more expensive. We know they want to deny more petitions, so making the test harder is the logical outgrowth of that. So is the next one. They're going to expand the reasons why they're going to deny your petition. Now, I've said this in the past. Every single immigration petition has a requirement that you're a good moral person. Well, they're going to, it's usually proven in the negative, meaning I haven't done bad things. So because I haven't done bad things, I'm a good person. If I've done bad things, I'm not a good person. Well, this administration is expanding the list that says you're not a good person. In other words, expanding the things that convict you. And there are, of convictions that could happen to you. And let me tell you, there's a lot of them. When you're applying for citizenship, there's a look back period. So what immigration does is says, first, is there anything in your past, like a conviction, that would completely disqualify you? For example, you're an axe murderer. You served 20 years, but hey, you lied about your name and you haven't got your citizenship under the new name. No, they're gonna catch up that, you're gonna get disqualified and you're gonna get deported. So what we're talking about here is crimes that can disqualify you. One or more crimes of moral turpitude. That isn't new, but again, they're expanding what is a crime of moral turpitude. They're defining it very expansively, and it's not really defined. It's conduct that's immoral. It could be shoplifting, a $5 offense, and all of a sudden you're disqualified for one petty offense. So immigration looks anything in your past that disqualifies you, number one. Number two, how did you get your green card? Did you get it lawfully? Did you lie? Did immigration make a mistake? Were you lawfully admitted? In other words, were you admitted and no mistake was made, either by you or by the government? Because it doesn't matter who makes the mistake, the government's going to blame you. So that's a second catch-all that they have to disqualify your citizenship application. The third is, are you a good moral person during the look-back period? So if I filed in January 1st, 2020, the look-back period is usually 5 years, or from January 1st, 2015, unless I got my green card based on marriage to my spouse, which I didn't. I got it thanks to Ronald Reagan, but maybe you did. So in that case, the look-back period is only 3 years. So during the look-back period, is there something that makes me an immoral person, like a conviction for immoral conduct like shoplifting? Now, if I was convicted of shoplifting 20 years ago, and afterwards I got my green card, and now applying for my citizenship, that's not going to disqualify me. It's well past the look-back period. If you were convicted of 2 or more offenses, which combined resulted in 5 or more years in jail, except for political offenses. So, we're not saying you were convicted of one offense and that resulted in more than 5 years. That's clear, automatic disqualified. No, here we're talking about there's multiple convictions. None of them were significant, but in the totality, you served or could have served more than 5 years in jail. Guess what? You're not a good moral person. You're convicted of a controlled substance, drug. It's pretty much everything except for marijuana less than 30 grams. Any other drug, you're disqualified. You're not a good moral person. And depending on what it is, you're also going to be placed in deportation proceedings and deported. Now, if you're in jail, one offense, more than 180 days during the last 3 or 5 years, during the look-back period, automatically not a good moral person. You gave false testimony under oath. In other words, you perjured yourself. Not a good moral person. Any prostitution offense. That could be you were engaged in prostitution, you attempted to procure prostitution, you tried to bring a prostitute from abroad, or you received proceeds from prostitution, meaning you pimped someone out. Any one of those, you're not a good moral person. So let's say I'm a green card holder and I have a child, I have two, Noemi and Marcelo, but let's assume they're not in the United States and they were not born here. And something happens and I need to get them here as quickly as possible. So I pay a coyote to bring them across. They're caught at the border, I get them released, I then file for them, they're in removal proceedings, I'm now going for my citizenship, and the government's gonna say, you smuggled somebody. Now, I was not accused of the crime, I was not convicted of the crime, but the officer could have enough information to find that I in fact did that. Like, for example, they asked me at my citizenship ceremony, at my citizenship interview, and I foolishly admit to having done it because I didn't have an attorney. Oops. Now I disqualified myself. Not a good thing. Polygamy. So that's where I have more than one wife at the same time. Oops. I'm not sure why anybody would actually want that. For those of you that don't know, I happen to work with my wife. So she's also an attorney. We met in law school. I mean, who else is going to put up with us attorneys, right? So she's my life partner and business partner. So we're all good. No polygamy here. Gambling offense. 2 or more gambling offenses or someone that receives a benefit from illegal gambling automatically disqualified. Habitual drunkard. No, I'm not talking about you had a bad day, you went to a bar, you had a drink and you went home drunk. I'm not talking about that. Habitual drunkard is when you're regularly drunk. When you have to subscribe yourself to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, it doesn't mean you can't rehabilitate yourself, it doesn't mean you can't show that you're a different person, but it's that much harder during the look back period now than it ever was before. 2 or more convictions for DUI. I've spoken about this in the past. It's going to keep on coming back. I told you in October when the government made a decision that if you're in removal and you're filing for certain relief, if you have 2 or more convictions for a DUI, you're disqualified. I told you it's going to come back to every single immigration petition. And it is. Here we are for citizenship. Later on, we'll be saying the same thing for asylum. We've talked about it in a family-based petition context. If you have 2 or more DUIs, you're screwed. Unless you can show you're a different person, it was a really long time ago, and you're otherwise deserving. And I gotta tell you, 2 or more DUIs in this climate, it's tough. Failure to support your dependents. So, like I said, I have 2 kids. I'm married, but let's say we're separated, or let's say we don't, God forbid, we get divorced, and the judge says I have to pay $1,000 a month. Chances are I'm gonna have to pay a lot more than that. But let's imagine, for the purpose of the conversation, I only have to pay $1,000 a month, and I fall behind on my payments. I bounced a check. I lost my job. It took me a couple months to find a new job. I wasn't able to pay my mortgage or anything else, including my child support. Well, the failure to do that means I'm not a good person. I'm not a good moral person because I'm not taking care of my kids, and every parent should take care of their kids. So why should the government give me citizenship? Adultery. That's an extramarital affair. Tends to destroy existing marriages unless there's extenuating circumstances. How does that happen? Well, sometimes, when you're applying for citizenship, it asks you who your kids are. And marriages and divorces, and guess what? If you have a child out of wedlock when you're married, that's adultery. That could be a basis to deny your citizenship. And the last one, you gotta love this, unlawful act that adversely reflects upon your good moral character. What on earth does that mean? We have no clue. I could drive a truck through that definition. It could literally fit anything. That is so overbroad, it's absurd. So, that likely will be found unconstitutional, but that will take months or years for that to happen. In the meantime, if you were arrested for any reason ever, make sure you speak to an attorney, not just any attorney, but an immigration attorney who you trust. Not just somebody that you Googled. Look them up. Meet with them, ask questions, make sure that they treat you right. See how you feel after meeting with the staff, with the attorney. Do they answer your questions? Do they call you back? Are they proactive? Have they written a book? Are they informing you on this program? Who are they? What are they about? But meet with somebody. It doesn't have to be with us. Look, you might be in Arizona, Texas, Florida, who knows? Most of our clients are in New Jersey, but we have many that come from as far away as Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and New York for our services. But if you're in Nebraska, you might want to find somebody more local, which I understand. Just talk to somebody. Do not file a petition of any kind in this climate without first consulting with a qualified immigration attorney, because you will regret it. Number 3, more forms you'll be able to file electronically. Now, don't get excited. Yes, filing electronic forms sounds great. I can just go on the website, press a couple of buttons, and off I'm going. There are very few that are available, number 1. Number 2, you still have to provide the supporting documents, which at the end of the day, it's all about the documents. What documents do you need, and how do you prove it? Not so much answering questions, but hey, if you answer a question incorrectly, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's the truth coming out to light. So be very careful. In fiscal year 2019, there were over 1,214,300 applications filed electronically. That's 10% more than the year before. 100,242, that was in 2018. So USCIS added 3 forms for a total of 8 that can be filed online. Citizenship based on parentage, that's N600. Change of status, I-539, you want to extend your visa to stay more time, or you want to change it from a student to a tourist or vice versa, that's Form I-539. Replace your green card, Form I-90. Travel document, I-131A. You want your citizenship was denied, and you want to request a hearing, Form N-336. And citizenship, N-400. Until the system is such that you can file forms electronically and upload all the supporting documents, I don't recommend you do this. But it's in some things you can. Some things that are very simple. For example, work authorization. You already have an approved petition and you wouldn't be getting it. But asylum, green card application, travel permanent, those are the ones that are coming. The I-45, I-765, the I-131, I-129, the I-589, those are really substantive petitions where the documents are incredibly important. And there are what I call gotcha questions. Things like they ask you, hey, have you ever worked without permission? They want you to say no. Meanwhile, they're asking you for your tax returns for the past 3 years. Guess what? If you had income, chances are you worked. And now you just lied and committed fraud. I'm not trying to beat you over the head with this information. I just see too many people, good people, that had good petitions and had a good chance of success that screwed it up, and their petition was not your average run-of-the-mill petition. It was really unusual, and there was a characteristic, and because of it, they're now in removal proceedings. Don't let it happen to you. Just be informed. Number 4, fourth change coming in 2020.